I'll pass over the floor to Michele. And Michele, we've got about an hour or so. So just take it away. I have your presentation if you want me to share it at any point. So you just let me know. Okay, floor is yours.
All right, Andrew, thanks so much. Can you pull up my presentation, please? I'll just explain the intention here.
Yep.
I put together a few slides about biomimicry just to put everybody on the same level of talking. Please, everybody jump in with questions and precisions, especially the biomimic experts here that can maybe help with a little bit of context and other applications than mine, which is in human communication inspired by biomimicry. So yeah, so I've got my MC Andrew here that is handling my presentation. So welcome everyone, and please do not hesitate to jump in. Can we have the next slide, please?
Mm-hmm.
So just for everyone that is not familiar with biomimicry, the idea was to put 6 principles here about biomimicry in a more formal way than in our last session. So first, biomimicry is for everyone. Any topic, any discipline, any culture, any community can learn from biomimicry. Everyone as a person as well as an individual can apply biomimicry in their everyday life. Second thing, which is to me the most important one, is that biomimicry provides a change of outlook. It's a different lens on looking at every human problem or even natural problem around us. If we look at biomimicry as a framework of understanding the world, I think we automatically get into a regenerative way of thinking. One of the main principles of biomimicry is the third, it's a little tree here, is it's about learning from nature instead of about it. Biology is about learning about nature and all the things that happen in it, species, the way things grow, the way populations change. This is all very important. And in biomimicry, we will try to apply the lessons of the functions of nature in different fields for applications for human solutions. On a more esoteric level, as the journey is the goal. You never become an absolute expert in biomimicry because the field is so wide and there are very new wedges that are put into biomimicry since the 1990s when it was kind of incorporated by Janine Benyus's book, Biomimicry. The discipline is fairly new and ever expanding in different ways. Biomimicry in organizations, biomimicry applied to human communication is my contribution. I know that Lydia is active in architecture, Hugo is his own thing. I'll let you take it away afterwards, Hugo, on how you apply biomimicry. You explain that way better. And I'm sure Fabian also has different applications. Traditionally, biomimicry was applied to forms and functions from natural characteristics of shapes and different things. Now we can see a real push towards organization, towards systems and processes, which I think is more of what we're looking for in this regenerative environment. Of course, become the change you wish to see in the world. And hello to all the Indians around here. And you cannot change the system if you don't change yourself. So the change of outlook will help us to empower the change around us. And biomimicry is also a very powerful tool to reconnect ourselves, to our community, to our culture, and to nature. And as Hugo hinted before, the more the network spreads, the more we gather other people into our ecosystem as biomimics and also as regenerative and system thinkers, I think the better we can see emergence of reconnecting. So thank you very much, Andrew. Can we go to the next? Any questions so far?
Michaela,
Yes.
will we have access to these slides?
Yes, we can. I can send them to the Slack, or
Thank
I
you.
don't know, Andrew, how you can see that.
Yeah, we can do that. And
Thank you.
I see Adam had a question as well. Or was that your question?
I didn't have a question. I was just clapping for.
Okay, sorry. All right.
Please clap. All right, so just a very basic definition of biomimicry. It's the practice of learning from and emulating nature to find solutions to human challenges. I think we can all agree on that. It's a very minimal definition, which is, to me, the widest and the most encompassing definition of what we're trying to do. Andrew?
Okay.
Right, so in my own practice, I started by learning biomimicry, and then all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, I realized nobody had really talked about communication, which is my field. And in order to contribute my little part to biomimicry and reconnection in the world, I brainstormed 8 challenges to human communication in the 21st century, which you can see here. So the 8 main problems were communication overload, censorship and access to information, complexity, how to convey complexity, how to foster confidence and trust between partners, cultures and community, collaboration and innovation, clarity and truth, and of course, guardrails for consequences and responsibility whenever we do anything in this world. I hear or read that Lydia has something. Please, Lydia.
Yes, actually, it was about the previous slide. You say that biomimicry is focused for solutions to human challenges, but what I usually, in my opinion, it is about challenges for all organisms. So this is like a more anthropocentric vision still. I think biomimicry is more inclusive. So.
I agree with that. The thing is, when I present biomimicry to people that are not in the field, it is very important to convey to them that they're the only ones that can make the change. Nature will do its own thing. Agreed with you that it is for all challenges. Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Right. So once I decided to look at the challenges, I abstracted the functions that we need to answer the challenges that were on the previous slide. And very funnily, I came up with 13 rules, because you have to come up with something that is a framework. And the 13 rules that I derived from the challenges and the functions that I could find in nature, where nature could help us to overcome these challenges or help with the challenges to human communication, without me planning on it, ended up being the ways human cells communicate. So there are 13 principles that human cells use in emitting and receiving signals that are, to me, the solutions to human communication challenges in the 21st century. I will not go through the 13 of them, but it's kind of interesting that the arc went from human challenges and you end up with something very biological and very natural in the functions that we need to do as also cell of a superorganism that is our cultures, our communities, and the ecosystem as a whole. So reference to my book, in case you're interested, we can go on with that. But maybe today we'll try to have a look at different perspectives. So it's just, it was just a constat, how do you say? A realization that we as humans are also parts of something that is greater than us. So we should act in communication ways the same way as parts act in a wider organism or ecosystem. Andrew?
Yep.
Right, so in my book, I have a few, I selected 6 case studies that I go through. Maybe we'll not go into them. We can maybe have another session about, human communication, but just to see the variety of functions that you can find in nature to answer the human challenges in communication. So I hinted at self-organizations, at the fact that we need to corroborate information, which is very interesting for some people, especially in the blockchain field. We should shape the rules and be concerned about the rules that govern our communities and our cultures. To me, one of the most fascinating one, the one with the savannah you can see here, is cooperate versus competing in human interactions. Also at the level of organizations and countries. So basically, if you have a bare patch of soil in the beginning, there's fierce competition to colonize it. And at one point, the ecosystem is, air quote, mature. And then the system will try to perpetuate itself through cooperation and symbiotic relationships, which I think is very interesting when you look at the evolution of international cooperation, for example. Maybe we're at this threshold between cooperation and competition, and we go back and forth because we have not yet decided what the rules are that govern international cooperation. But there's probably interesting questions to be asked here. Innovation and communication. My take on that is that the more we communicate, the more we risk or can innovate by diversity and sharing across fields, cultures, species, and so on. And also that innovation must be communicated in order to have a self-serving positive feedback loop between communication and innovation. And of course, the goal being to be symbiotic in our relationships. And what is important in the symbiotic relationships is that they are usually over the long term in order to cooperate instead of competing. So if there's any questions, just, I can get into any of those, but I'd like to have just a little bit of a panorama today. So if there's no specific questions, we can go to the next slide, Andrew. Right. While I wrote the book, I ended up with many, many more questions than answers. And I have here 3 questions that I would like to ask you. You can ask yourself or you can ask around you, as what ecosystems are we part of? Are we part of one ecosystem, of many ecosystems? How are they linked? How are the ecosystems intertwined? What happens at the ecotones, which is Hugo's name of his podcast, webcast. Ecotones is where the magic happens between 2 ecosystems. That's where the biggest biodiversity happens and where innovation sparks. Another question would be, where do we place the individual? This goes back to my story of us being cells of a superorganism. The scaling from the smallest to the biggest, and where do we place the individual? Of course, since we're anthropocentric, the individual human being is at the center for us. But is that really so? Is there not another way of looking at it? And to me, a very interesting thing, the 3rd question is, since I started talking about biomimicry to different people, there seems to be a consensus that biomimicry can build bridges across disciplines and cultures because everybody's concerned about nature. Nobody will tell you they don't like nature, and we are all part of it. And biology being the hardest of soft sciences and the softest of hard sciences can maybe give us a bridge across silos in order to talk to one another and using the narratives of nature and of reconnection. So open questions. I do not have the answers. I think it would take a lifetime for each of them. Just a little bit food for thought for all of you. Andrew, keep waking you up. So yeah, I think as Hugo said before, as Andrew also does it in this space, we should all stay in touch and try to knit the relationships, spread our web of regenerative thinking, and we can stay connected either on LinkedIn, per email. I sent you my email address if you'd like to dig into my book, which some of you have done. Please just drop me a note and we'll make the magic happen. And otherwise, I'm done with my presentation, and I would like to hear more about the applications of biomimicry in the fields of the other biomimics that are around the table. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Michaela. I'm just stopping to sharing the screen now.
Perfect.
And we move into discussion mode. Floor is open.
Hi, this is Tanuja here. If I may ask a question of Michaela. Yeah. So Michaela, how did you find biomimicry? What brought you there? One. And second, can you name your top 3 findings that are not findings, learnings, once you went down that path that are vastly different than the world that you were living in before you discovered biomimicry?
All right, so how did I discover biomimicry? It was thanks to the pandemic, because some good things come out of it. I just finished the whole Khan Academy biology courses, and I didn't know what to do with myself anymore. I'm also a safari guide, and went back to the institution that taught me the guiding. And I thought, while I'm, kind of stuck at home, is there anything I can do online to further my knowledge of the savanna ecosystem? And landed on the website of this company called Eco Training. And they had an introductory course from Learn Biomimicry in South Africa. And I, just signed up for the first one. And there were 3, and within 1 week I was done with all 3. And I just found my home discipline kind of thing, because it's very widely encompassing, and it also connects lots of dots in my cursus about loving nature and biology and intercultural relations and communication, and it kind of put everything together. And so I investigated further and decided to go on the biomimicry journey with Claire Jenisch from Biomimicry South Africa. And while I was doing that, I came up with the idea of the book. And so that was my project for applied biomimicry. And this is how I'm here. And this is how I got into Hugo. And then Hugo invited us to an ecotone, and Andrew met me there. And that's how I ended up in GRC. So, everything is linked. And we all go from one thread on the spider web to the next. And thanks, Hugo. Thanks, Andrew. And it was quite fascinating because to me, you're asking about 3 takeaways. When I was guiding in South Africa, I was always wondering how I could teach people about how everything is connected. And so you have the usual narratives about the lions and the termites and so on. And basically biomimicry helped me kind of find the framework that allows us to say everything is connected, but also everything can be learned from and not only about. So that's really, to me, that was a shift. Learn from instead of about is definitely one. The second one is really this cooperation versus competition that I was not aware of. I was kind of diffusely aware of it, but it kind of put a framework around it. and also allowed for me to, again, connect more dots and have a narrative that you can put forward in the world and to explain to people that, well, maybe cooperation is better than competition, even though the dominant framework right now is still competition, at least in companies and between people. So that's a very important one. And to me, the last one is this bridging of disciplines, which has allowed me to go into different system thinking, different complexity approaches, organizational approaches, that I was not expecting in the beginning with biomimicry, but that really allows me to enter spaces where I had not been, including academia on some parts, companies and individuals, and you can kind of bridge lots of different interests and bring them all nicely together with a little biomimicry bow on it. So those would be the three key takeaways for me. And I can see Hugo smiling. You want the biomimicry bow around your neck for tonight? I can make one for you. Does that answer your question, Tanuja?
Yep, thank you very much.
Maybe I could,
I would be very interested to hear Fabian and Lydia answer the same questions.
Yeah, Lydia has something to say, I think.
Yep. I would like to share some. First of all, I love the book you sent me, and I think it's bringing biomimicry again a step further into the world. So that's really good. Maybe I can show you some practical examples. Next to being an architect, I've worked with Hugo also a lot on hackathons. That's together with my colleague Serena Scholte. We have spin waves. And with hackathons, what we do is we get a challenge, usually a very big challenge that these large companies don't have any idea on how to solve, because they are more than just looking for one solution. They're usually looking for an ecosystem solution. And it's usually technical, because I have a technical background, and organizational. My colleague Serena has an organizational background. And we challenge these big questions with biomimicry, which always results in, of course, very sustainable solutions that you can actually bring to practice tomorrow. So we had, for example, one for Rijkswaterstaat. That's an infrastructure government agency. And they had the Innova 58. That's a large highway that they're going to remodel, very sustainable. It will be the most sustainable highway in the Netherlands. And they're going to develop a new little pavilion next to it. And what I did, what Serena and I did, and I think, and I'm not sure if Hugo was part of this too, but if you're, am I allowed to share the screen? I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just do it through my desktop and then you'll see. What we actually did was looking at ecological relations. So this is well, eventually we came to the conclusion that we're going to have a new way of building, and that will be a symbiotic construction or symbiotic building process. And that was based on the symbiotic relationships you can find in nature. So there's a predator, of course the competition was there, mutualism, commensalism, and amensalism. And we had some examples. For example, a sheep is actually also a predator, but it doesn't kill the grass. It just eats it partially. And so, and what was kind of nice was that we tried to find all these kinds of relationships within this large company, and also the way they had relationships with external partners and redefine them. This is competition. It's double negative, but solutions you have, what nature has as a solution for competition is that one, you die, two, you find a different strategy, or you take a different area. And it was really nice to have like a real complete team of people looking at these ways of working together with in nature and then finding their own within the company. And what they eventually thought was that Rijkswaterstaat, the government agency, is a really big agency that has relationship with very specific partners. And like the small partners, they actually don't have enough money or power to be involved with this big company. And that's actually what they were looking for, because that's usually where the innovation comes from. So they classified themselves as a black walnut, and a black walnut is amensalism. It's a negative zero interaction. And this black walnut actually creates its own ecosystem because it spreads out some toxins, and it kills some of the other species, or it doesn't let it into the surroundings of this black walnut. So it has a really specific small ecosystem. And it was kind of funny because the entire agency called themselves the black walnut all of the time. And what's really nice is that eventually they took this up, and one of the biomimics that was part of our hackathon, she got a job at this agency. She was doing the bio-inspired innovation at University of Utrecht. And now she's the biomimic within this Rijkswaterstaat. And she's actually doing this project now. So it's called symbiotisch bouwen, symbiotic building systems. And I have a meeting after this meeting with all kind of architects working together on making one design, and it's together with other big agencies, and we're all equal. We're finding a new way on how to organize the building system. Also, payment is going equal, everything is open. So it's really experimental and really nice. So that's one of the things. And I actually have two other examples, but I'll just keep it with one, or otherwise I will be talking all of the time. And I think what Fabian will have to say, and Hugo, will be very interesting too. So what we did for another company is Sweco. That's an engineering company that has an underground infrastructure. It's a network from cables, electricity, water, sewage, and internet. That's all below the ground, but it's getting too big, too much. It's like a big chaos, and they want to organize this better. So what we did for them is actually this, creating a roadmap for them. What they wanted to know how to have some influence. All the trees are municipalities, so those are small ecosystems. Then you, of course, have the fungi network, where you can communicate. That's the basis of, I think everyone knows this example, that fungi communicates between the trees. And there are some parameters on how to do this. And then actually wolves, I don't know if you've seen the movie, or it's a short film, How Wolves Change Rivers. That's actually giving you, we are, as humans, we are also ecosystem architects, just like wolves. And you can see the trophic cascading, how if you have one species that has some influence and it's really consistent, and it has some, also again, some parameters, you can actually change the entire ecosystem. So for people doing this, if you are in an organization and you're trying to get the organization to be more sustainable, this is actually a very empowering film for people to experience that they could be the wolves. And of course, a wolf is a really nice reference because you think they are strong and stuff like that. So we said that we needed some moves within the small ecosystems to change the system. And well, they actually are going to work with this now, and that's kind of nice. So some examples. So just
Good. Thank you. Yeah, Tanuja, you're on mute.
That was fascinating, Lydia. Thank you. That was most impressive. It's wonderful to see that biomimicry is not just being thought of as nature inclusion, but also that it's a way of thinking in terms of patterns, especially the way you think about wolves, and then how you talk about wolves as being ecosystems designers or creators, right? So my question to you is, when you go to, for example, to this infrastructure company and you do the analogy of the forest and the wolves and so on, doesn't it mean that you have to restructure everything from the way the organization is set up to the actual machinery that is being used, to the actual architecture that is being used? How do you bring in so much change?
Well, actually, I think it starts with motivating people, and usually what I do is give them a biomimicry introduction and giving them the feeling that they can do something themselves. And then all those people that are at the meeting, try to give them, help them to find their own ways on how to change the organization from within. So,
Okay,
and
I see.
usually we have, because it's a very big problem, we also have the people that can make the changes within the organization. So they are the wolves actually that we are talking to. And we're changing the company from within. So now that we have a biomimic, for example, that has a biomimicry job at this company, that's like a really big change.
Yeah. Okay, so my area of focus is complexity science, which is the analytical part of system science. Yeah. And what's interesting is if I look at the problem of sustainability, and I don't mean it in the traditional sense, I mean it in the sense, if you build a system, whether it's a house or a car or a country, if you want it to be sustainable, the only way it can be sustainable is if it's open to change. Yeah. So it is open to new inputs. It is open to new events. It is open. It is it's like a breathing thing, you know. So that's the only way it can sustain itself. But in order to be that way, to be a breathing thing, it must have pieces inside it that are how to put this, almost like conscious agents, right? And these conscious agents communicate with each other.
Yep.
And I wanted to hear your comments on that.
Well, I think the most important thing is that you are yourself a conscious agent, and just focus on that and just stick with that. And then I think telling the biomimicry story is very inspiring usually. And people love nature. There's actually no one that hates nature. Well, not really. So the story we tell is very positive because it gives a lot of perspective, because there's like 3.8 billion years of database of what we could do. And knowing that it's very healthy for you, for your body and mind, to be related to nature. I think just keeping telling this to people, if it's like a really important business guy or director, or if it's a child that is 4, doesn't matter. You just can spread the seeds, and it will be. That's actually how we started. I'm doing this for, I think, 10 years now, maybe 12. And actually together with Saskia van de Muizenberg from Biomimicry now. And we're actually really getting some feet on the ground now here in Holland. So that's really nice. So,
can you share with us the results of this work you did with the infrastructure company?
The results are that we have a collective, and we are with 28 people now, where the big company Rijkswaterstaat is one of them. We have the water board. We have a really big company called Arcadis. Then we have some architects. We have some people that are more in social innovation, some people that do organizational things. I also talked with Hugo, maybe envisioning the system we have together with Sandra. and well, some really innovative thinkers also on how to do a different way of economy. And we're actually now organizing ourselves on how to be organized, how to make decisions, how to divide the money, and what we're actually going to build. So these are all the questions we're going to answer with all 28 of us. So it's really crazy, and but also really good. It's like yeah, creating a new world, actually, a bit like this. So
Cool.
Fascinating. Thank you.
May I interrupt? And maybe I just want to make sure I see the time ticking. And I know others may have questions, but I would also personally love to hear from Fabian and Ugo, since we have them here. Any reflections on what you've heard? And if you have comments or questions, I see Adam put one regarding wolves and how they change ecosystems. If you can put some whatever questions you have, and I'll try and reserve a couple minutes at the end that we can pick up some questions if we have lingering questions. So maybe Fabian, if you have something to say, and we could hear from Ugo too, but go for it.
Yeah, right. Ugo also posted that he would like to hear about my some latest updates, because we had contacts a while ago, and since then a lot has developed. And so thank you very much for all the input and also discussion. It's really cool to hear updates, and also to see how what you're doing in terms of gamification, communication comes together with what we're doing as biomimics. And I tried to bring all these things together already, and now here is a group that actually does it. It's beautiful to see. So yeah, I already posted an update on the wolves here in the chat, and this is something that really also changed my view on how we live together, that we live as ecosystems. I studied that, like how do our organs and cells work as in connection as single parts, but then connect to a bigger part. So we ourselves are an ecosystem, and then we create ecosystems, and we create groups and societies, and we create nations, and everything is connected. And that has a spiritual aspect in a way, which is beautiful, but it has a very pragmatic aspect as well. And I although valuing very much this awareness, looking into yourself, I think when you have to communicate, or find a way to communicate this wisdom in a way that we acquire when we look into nature to people who are not that far yet. So how do we reach those people? How do we create real impact? And that is projects, that is working with the people who have maybe the old mindsets. And that's really brought me to think for some years how to do that. So I was looking into innovation consultancy, but it was not enough to just do innovation projects. It was not enough to just educate. You sort of needed to bring that together. And I learned a lot from nature, and especially also on how self works. So I really liked your presentation and your principles, Michaela. And to me, it's not only about communicating between individuals, between ecosystems, but it is really how do we create systems that really form a symbiosis, and in the best way a mutual symbiosis. And we need the right conditions, because in nature there is nothing that is governed from top down. There is no one taking all the calls for the whole ecosystem. It is just that the ecosystem is set up in a way that it works. So how do we get these conditions right? And I'm thinking about that and building a platform based on these principles, which is a project collaboration platform, Cobiome. So you can check it out, cobiome.com. It's running now. We're running projects. We run mainly multi-stakeholder projects, which is a bit similar to what Lydia said, especially in Germany here. Yeah, we'll do. But we have a strong digital aspect in that as well, because digital technology, communication technology allows us to, first of all, communicate with people who are not in the same room, and in the best way create this energy that we get if we are in the same room in a workshop, but maybe with thousands of people. So a bit that's what social media try to do, but it sort of got it wrong because it didn't create the right conditions in the ecosystem. So how do we get that, create that ecosystem that is more collaborative? Actually that it is that collaboration itself is the trigger for success and not competition. That is something that we still need to work on, but it goes like it changes the way how we work together as individuals, how we work on projects, and it can change. Someone was talking about, right, the way we do economy. So if the real trigger for success is work sharing knowledge and not keeping everything to yourself, not like gathering value for yourself, but sharing it. If that's the trigger for value creation in our economy, then we'll imagine how the world would look like. And I think technology, communication technology can help us to do that. So I see a strong intersection between Michaela and Hugo here. I would, yeah, really love to go into really co-creation maybe after that, and maybe, I don't know, you said you have a Slack channel or something. I think I was a bit high level now, but maybe I brought across some of the things I've been doing, I'm doing. And so we have this platform now in projects, and we're creating an app that actually tries to do exactly that, but all of that we've been talking about. But now I would hand over to Hugo because he's a specialist on this, on the technology part as well.
Thank you, Fabian. I think it is just great to know that we are here together and to get to know the updates of your work. I think you are great leading voices of biomimicry, and I like this approach from Michaela that I enjoy a lot from biomimicry, that there is not one that holds the truth of anything. Like, we are just learning and we are trying to make the best out of our own life experiences. And it's very tough because it is not easy to shape this wind towards something. But I think the fact of focusing in solutions and trying to perform better is also very, very important in the translation towards other kind of people. So what I wanted to share, it's a series of slides from different presentations, but for me, what biomimicry helped me to have clarity on is how to find harmony between ourselves and our habitat, wherever we are. Somehow you have to integrate yourself as a part of the ecosystem, and that could be in one scale or another, but it is as simple as trying to add positive value within your own ecosystem, whether it's digital or real. And I prefer to say real because this is where nature happens in the way that we know it. I like this approach also, that it is both sides, like qualitative, quantitative, like spiritual, completely scientific. And of course, biomimicry on its own, it's a scientific, like a science-oriented discipline that is based completely on science. But as more people around this is also connected with nature, then you have this other part which brings you to natural systems. So natural systems, they have regeneration, they heal. So it is very interesting just to try to see applications. So I definitely think that by doing biomimicry, we can achieve being a regenerative business and technology. And for doing that, we usually get the life principles and the full methodology. This is part of what I'm gonna do in the webinar from Switzerland tonight. And if you are interested to get to know a little bit more details. But so Michaela was also talking about the cell and how to communicate. So one of my projects today, and this is just sharing the way I'm using right now biomimicry, it is how to build a digital membrane and what are the functions of the membrane and how it transports and communicates and protects the interior of the cell. So the project allows me to see how to connect with other, like by using my own molecules of communication that I've been building, how to connect this to, for example, the donut economics, the blue marble evaluation, the seeds, and all the projects that I've been doing around this space, they've been based on biomimicry. So in terms of just biomimicry, I'm using the essential elements, which are ethos, reconnect, and emulate. And I'm using the life principles, which are design criteria, just to try to become a little bit more in this living system context, and trying to behave respondly to this by infusing our own energy to make it happen. And biomimicry thinking, so we have a process that is not completely linear, but it is a process that is called biomimicry thinking. So you can start finding the context, the function, so we can put it a little bit bigger here. And this is the way from biology to design and from design to biology, where I found the possibilities to do 7 Vortex, because in 7 Vortex, what I'm doing there is understanding the relationships in the ecosystem. So I couldn't find any tool that allowed me to move into this idea of ecosystemic thinking. And by understanding how energy flows into an ecosystem, I think I was getting closer to understand also mycelium neural networks, because the basic deep pattern, it is that they're just energy exchanges. So what if we can imagine the markets as ecosystems, and then to value where the energy balance is going instead of just monetary metrics. So I've been doing this for a while, and what I had in mind is how to build this tool for pioneers that helps the community and their organizations to have a collective intelligence. For one, is information system. For the pioneers, is more a curation tool. But gathering this collective intelligence could be helpful for the system. So I was getting sure to have this connectivity, and like I'm trying to enable the future by giving me the possibility to collaborate, to have these radical collaborations, and to keep evolving over time as more players move into the game, and we need to accelerate this kind of evolution. So in As Nature, which is the tool that we use for getting some biological insights, 7 Vortex is there, and these are the applications that the thing I think I'm more into ecosystem thinking, and it could be used for health part. And these are the let's say the type of exchanges that I saw. This is something that I learned from biology. So I do think that this universal communication idea from bacteria, because they have the universal communication molecule, and they speak 2 different languages. If we are all bacteria, and if we are an ecosystem on our own, then we should be matching one or many patterns in different scales. So if we can understand this and use it, then something, for example, like cancer could be better understood, because it is a systemic issue. It is not just one silver bullet. So how to bring this narrative to the communities and to the regeneration movement? Well, this is what I'm trying to do with 7 Vortex, and putting let's say an example of a full application of a biomimicry thinking process. So we can be sure that we can provide something that is both positive and is making its own space to be a business. So I'm trying to leverage in business and technology by using biomimicry for creating conditions conducive to life.
Cool, thank you. So just a little time check, folks. We got just a few minutes left, about 9 minutes, and we heard a lot. So I'm just wondering if we can maybe hear from anyone who hasn't yet spoken, who has something to say, not to put anyone on the spot, but any reflections from those of you who haven't said anything yet about what you've heard?
I'm really struck with the parallel with metaphysics and our understanding now of the metaphysical, because with the interrelationships and the balance, and how we play many different parts within the same ecosystem, which I think is fascinating, how different ecosystems are interrelated and intersectionalized. So I find that very, very interesting.
Great. Thank you. Excellent. Brief interventions, please. Let's do Adam and then Devyani.
On just question, thank you very much. This has been really exciting. The 7 vortex tool, is that just mind mapping, or are those individual orbs or spheres? Are they communication environments or just like for posting information? Can you chat in them or have video meetings in them?
Well, so far, this is almost like an advanced prototype of the tool. The whole infrastructure is already in place. So it could do all these kind of things, and the architecture is scalable. But so far, it is more ecosystem mapping tool. So what the function is also to connect knowledge. So we are treating each of the bubbles as a knowledge. So it becomes your knowledge ecosystem. And let's say lots of people from regeneration, biomimicry, theory, I don't know, there's different kinds of currents that they need complexity, and even in coding in computers. They're using it because it allows you to visualize as a mind map, but it gives you at some point when needed, just a specific visualization on the energy exchanges as ecological interactions in a system.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. And Devyani. You there, Devyani? I see your hand up.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew. Now I'll unmute myself. Yeah, thank you, Andrew, and thank you. I'm really glad, that I was able to make it for this call, because this is, as you know, Andrew, a subject that's really close to my heart. So when I messaged you saying they're speaking our language, I was very excited. Really enjoyed, Hugo, your presentation, and Lydia, when you said. The thing about the answer about nature, I'm like, yes, we are nature. So I'm happy that we're finally having this conversation wherein we're saying that this interrelationship between ecology and consciousness is actually being discussed mainstream. So this gives me great joy. Those who know me, right from the beginning of GRC, I'm happy to see that 2 years plus hence this is mainstream. So yes, may the force be with you, Hugo, Lydia, Mikhail, and Fabian. That was lovely. Adam, I loved hearing you, and I'm hoping that at some point we're able to. Someone said, there's this one comment I want to make, Andrew, and I'm done. Someone said, I think it was Tanuja, when you talked about that conscious quotient, or what was it? And I think it's all linked. We talk about competition and co-option, but nature, it is as it is. It's linked. There is no. Imagine your own body. If your cells were competing with each other, how would you survive? So it's as within, so as within, so above. Your body is your micro is a reflection of the macro. If your own 50 trillion cells started competing with each other, and your own organs would compete with each other, how would you? And when that happens, when that dissonance happens, it's when you're not in alignment with your own naad or your own, song, and then that's when disease happens. So I'm so grateful that Hugo even talked about creative healing. And I'm just very happy, Andrew, that you put this together. Thank you, Mikhail. And I'd love to, I'm sorry, I'm not getting, if I've pronounced your names wrong, but I'm coming back after a while. So it's good that, I reconnected. Adam, I've heard so much about you, and I want to connect with you too. So that's it for now. And thank you, Usha, as always, for your intervention. And Carolina, like you said, the last time you left early and you wanted to be here throughout, me too. I was keen to make sure that I'm here throughout, and Andrew is always kind to, give me a little bit of leeway and a long rope when I'm on mute. So thank you for that, Andrew. Really grateful. If I missed out anybody, namaste to all of you, and till we meet again. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you, Devyani. Maybe Usha wanted to say something. I couldn't tell. You're okay. All right. Or Carolina. You're good too. Okay. So we got just a couple minutes. Anything that came out for people? Well, I'm going to make one comment, which is this this communication element. for me is really a major one. And sort of the intelligence and sharing of intelligence through communication. It's how I've spent a lot of my life. So I'm a big believer in that. And it's not simple. So I'm really happy that you've applied that concept into your work, Michaela, and interested in exploring that further. So any checkouts, or I'm really curious if those, personally, I'm really curious if those who are in the biomimicry field have heard something from the rest of your fellows who are in this field that maybe you didn't hear before, or you heard it in a new way. But the floor is open. We got about 3 or 4 minutes, so.
I just wanted to resonate with the last comment from Devyani. Nature should be looked at like a library instead of an extractive resource provider. It's all about sharing information, because basically all of nature is just information spread into the future through DNA and interactions. So if we look at nature as a library, we would not want to burn down the Library of Alexandria another time. So maybe we can, with this narrative, try to explain to people that we should preserve a great teacher around you.
Good, thank you.
So much information, people are mute.
People are just being very, very well disciplined. Thank you. You've all done great. I'm going to get
Plenty
a
to
word.
think about.
Yeah, I'm going to get a word in edgewise before we sign off, which is that Tanuja has graciously agreed to host next week's meeting. And that will be followed by, let's see who's doing after that. That's Carolina, and then Selar will be in the subsequent weeks while I'm in the US. So thanks so much to all of you, and I'll still be available. But please, any last words before we go? Yeah, Adam.
I just want to thank everyone. I was about to be pulled into an emergency meeting that started at 5 here, and I prayed on the matter, and the voice I heard was like, don't go there, come to GRC. And I'm really glad that I came here.
Yay, thank you. Thank you.
Bless you. I just want to say to Adam's point, I think that was possibly me, because Andrew, you know how much I wanted to meet Adam the last time I missed it. So this is Adam's synchronicity at play. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Michael, for your last comment. Really appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay, we're at our time. Michaela and I will figure out what to do with this recording. I'll upload it onto the GRC channel, and then I can help you do whatever we need to do with it and make it available for people. Thanks so much to all of you. Tune in this evening Swiss time anyway, if you want to join Michaela and Hugo and I don't know who else will be there. So until for me, until the next couple of weeks, really appreciate that others are going to fill the space, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks everyone for participating.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Hey, will you send us the chat
Thank
stuff
you.
as well, Andrew, when you do?
Will
Just
do. Yep.
something I always nag Sam with. Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Yeah,
So links are all there, and
it'll be in the Slack for sure. See you. Bye.